Welcome to this edition of the Times Techies webinar series. My name is Shilpa Fatnas and I have with me my colleague Sujit John. The two of us will moderate today's discussion. I hope you and your families are staying safe and doing well. Our discussion today is in association with Cloud4C. Cloud4C is a cloud managed services provider offering private, public, hybrid, and multi-cloud management services for mission critical workloads of global companies. Our discussion today is on acing the essentials of digital transformation, cloud, AI, analytics, and beyond. Digital transformation has been a part of the core technology lexicon even before the pandemic, but the pandemic has really underscored the value of this transformation. To discuss what it involves, the challenges, and how to overcome those challenges, we have very distinguished professionals on our panel today, all of us who've been deeply involved in transformation projects.
We have with us Ram Sajja. Ram is the Global Head of Digital Transformation Services at Cloud4C. Prior to joining Cloud4C, Ram served as the Vice President of Engineering at Zyme Solutions based in Austin, Texas. Ram has pioneered and developed commercial software for automated technology management of data centers in a SaaS model and has successfully implemented this model in telecom, banking, healthcare, and retail verticals. He's a recognized expert in infrastructure management with over 2 decades of experience based in the US. Welcome, Ram.
Thank you, Sridhar.
We have with us Sammeer Saurabbh. Sammeer is Cto of Hdfc Securities. He's responsible for enterprise planning, strategic change, and operational IT services across all business units. Sammeer has over 25 years of experience in IT and capital markets. Prior to HDFC, he was with Daiwa Capital Markets. Sammeer has expertise in setting up new organizations as well as growing and transforming established ones. He has extensive experience of managing highly visible multi-million-dollar strategic global and regional projects and programs. Welcome, Sammeer.
We have with us Gyan Pandey. Gyan is Global and Group CIO at Aurobindo Pharma. Gyan has over 25 years of rich experience in IT leadership, digital strategy, global delivery management, ERP implementation, PMO, and competence management. He has worked with a number of companies, including Oracle, Panasonic, Genpact, Enrich, Qatar Petrochemicals Company. He has successfully managed and delivered multiple large-scale complex projects involving business transformation. Welcome, Gyan. Those of you who are viewing this can send in the questions. Those of you who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Sujit and I will put them to Ram, Sammeer, and Gyan. Coming to you, Ram, you have done a lot of transformation projects. What do you think would be the essential elements of critical transformation?
Thank you, Shilpa. That's a very interesting question because these days the most popular buzzword around is the digital transformation. And sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of companies have started this journey, and worldwide, if you look at the trends, everybody wants to get into the digital transformation realm. And pandemic or not, as we started this journey within our own organization, and we've been a traditional service delivery offering that we had in our managed services space. And when we looked at the opportunity coming our way a few years back, we saw this incredible opportunity to get into digital transformation services. So when we were looking at it and we were talking to our customers, which is a very wide variety of very popular customers worldwide, in various verticals, everybody was interested in taking on this journey, but still a lot of things were kind of being analyzed and researched. So when we started getting a little closer to when this whole COVID situation started, actually the digital transformation journey has just started with a lot of companies. But I would say that because of the pandemic, that has accelerated this adoption. However, in taking this journey, there are a number of things that organizations have to be cognizant about. Generally speaking, when we talk about digital transformation, there's a lot of different views on what that means. Some folks think that if you just move from an on-prem to a cloud environment, that in itself is a journey, but that's just a start. It is the first place to be. Then you have to look at what is your transformation goal? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to cut back on your data center costs? Are you trying to cut back on your management of infrastructure costs? Or is it that you're looking at an application availability perspective? So we generally tend to walk our customers through all these different scenarios, which would benefit them, starting with defining clear transformation goals. And in this process, we also emphasize on the need for having the high caliber talent that you need to have within the organization, and most importantly, what I personally advocate to a lot of CIOs I speak to is about the ability to go into the agile model of operations. Now, whenever people say agile, people generally relate that to software development. We've come a long way from there. You can run businesses in an agile model as well. And we've done that transformation ourselves internally here. And there are great benefits in going that way. Once you take this journey, you have to monitor the progress of how well you're underway in this and how well you're adopting the various technologies that you're exposed to now. On an on-prem solution, if you're basically running a packaged application, there is a certain way you go about it. And if you're going to cloud, the starting point is you have to have a very robust DevOps strategy, which again is a cultural change in addition to what you're trying to do within the digital transformation journey. So there's a lot here, and hopefully I can cover some more of these in future questions so that I give some time back to the panelists because I can continue talking about it. It's my favorite subject. So back to you, Shilpa.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ram.
Sammeer, you want to say something about what you've done internally as well as for the industry itself? What would your advice be?
See, during this pandemic time, I think it has seen a significant change in the digitization, digital transformation, you can see it. Taking my industry, okay, I think people would have experienced it. It's gone to a next level altogether in last 18 months, you can say, starting from March last year to almost 15 months we have completed. We have seen like almost like 3 times volume happening in last 15 months. The growth is like that. We have got a simple formula like how customers are coming. So out of 100% active customer, almost 30% to 40% customers are coming on daily basis, out of which almost 50% are transacting. So that is a significant increase. Earlier, it used to be 8 to 9% of the transaction. So capability of the customer. So that has seen a significant jump. At the same time, right from account opening, which is the digital account opening journey, using the KYC, using the various other system on the peripheral system outside the organization, integrating with those things, system, multiple regulatory integration. So all these things have speeded up, accelerated in last 15 months time, and that has made a lot of changes. Same thing happens because earlier there was a lot of brick and mortar kind of a solution for the customer interaction. That has changed now because it has to be a digital way of working. Same thing has happened internally to us also. If you look at the internal to our organization, this is all external, which I spoke about. Internal is like work from home. It was never thought of earlier before March, but we have to quickly turn it around that in within 1 month's time, 2 months time, entire organization is ready to work from home. So we have built a solution where we have got like 80% will be definitely always working from home. That is the new norm now, new normal now. And we expect that, okay, 15 to 20% will work from the office. 15 to 20% other resources will be working in rotation from the office, and the rest will be working from home. So that is another transformation which has happened. It is a lot of thought process which has changed. It's the psychological change because people have to accept that they are working from home, but still have to have an office kind of environment. So there, if you overall see, there will be a lot of digital transformation we have seen in last 15 months, and this will become a new normal. And going forward, it will just keep on accelerating and moving at a much faster pace.
Can you give some examples, some specifics, Sammeer, in terms of cloud and AI and all that? To what extent were these very important in this transition?
Yeah, so like we have moved a lot of customer services kind of a journey on the cloud. Okay, that is the first adoption we have done. Whether we have got the call landing in the cloud solution providers, data center, and the services we have taken from some of the, I don't want to name the service provider, but that is how we have implemented our work from home journey. Second, in terms of what we are trying to do, we have seen the significant growth on the transaction base, on the customers who are coming who are not transacting, but still they want to be on our platform during trading hours, so that they can see their portfolio, they can see the watch list and other things. So that also has significantly improved in a big way. There we have already planned a strategy to move to almost 95% of our transaction will start from the cloud journey. The work has already started. We are working out the complete detailed plan. The layout, the blueprint is ready, and by March 2022, we have got a target that we will be 95% our transactions will originate from the cloud journey.
Okay, we'll come back to that, Sammeer. But Gyan, you want to come in here? Same question. I mean, the pandemic, you also saw some big demands on your systems?
Well, I will put in this way, Sujit, that the pandemics has made the digitalization the core of every enterprise to survive in their sector. And pharma is not an exception, or manufacturing is not an exception. So some of the technologies or the digitalization which we keep on talking in one of the meetings when it comes of the automations and when it comes of that how we can have a better insight of the data. And after that, it used to go into the less priority kind of things, or because of the budget, it is not getting started, or we will rethink in the next meeting. That all of a sudden has become very core to the all board meetings, and also added to that the cybersecurity, which earlier used to be kind of not given the right attention. Well, IT also a part of that, why the right attention was not that, but generally it was not that attentive. But because of this COVID, where a lot of kind of importance and attention was given for the digitalizations, at the same time, with the rising cases of cybersecurity threats and all, there was also focus that, okay, how you can modernize your infrastructure, how you can educate your employees, how you can collaborate with them in a secured way, and all these things basically mandated the digitalization journey in a faster way. So in our case, especially if I talk about manufacturing in general and pharma specifically, we are not used to work remotely. In IT service industry, people used to have at least 2 or 3 days telecommuting, or for a while when there is some emergency or urgency, they will be working from remotely. But even for them also, working for so long number of days or months was not common. But in pharma, even the people having given the VPN, they will be using the VPN on and off when it is very, very emergent things, when they have to approve some of the, let's say, PO or somebody's leave, or some of the process related things, which is very kind of getting escalated. So they were not using also the VPN services and all. And over and above that, the people who have never worked remotely, never used VPN services, we have to enable them to work remotely. So this was a very big transformation. And at the same time, you have to support them, educate them, handhold them, and also ensure that you are secure. So that was one change from the IT side, I will say. But more than that, in terms of, let's say, processes and solutions, there has been a lot more solutions which we have been talking, and we have been doing the POC that got a lot more focus and attention. And we started many of the things. For example, we have been discussing, we implemented one solution of electronic lab notebook in one of our R&D center, but we couldn't start the same to another R&D center. It was not that there was not a need, but need was not that a priority that it will take the top importance. But now it has taken the importance and we started that. At the same time, the projects related to the machine execution system or e-back manufacturing record, or using even the thought process goes on using the technologies which is not very familiar within pharma, like AR, VR, in terms of learning, in terms of simulations and all. So that thought process has evolved. But one more thing which I will put it here is that even though there is a focus or there is a need to go more on digitalization side, the existing infrastructure or the existing applications, what you have in the environment, in your landscape, that may not be compatible to move to the cloud. That's one of the reasons. And second is that the business process owners, they will have some kind of apprehensions in terms of cloud, because the moment you talk about cloud, there will be always some apprehension in terms of security, data residency, though there is a solutions related to that. But one thing which goes to the generally, when you talk in general internally, then cloud could be a solution which will save more cost. But it is not a cost-saving solution. More than that, it brings agility, scalability, security, flexibility, so many other things added to that. And the one paramount thing in pharma is compliance. Anything and everything which goes, whether cloud, on-premise, which brings all those benefits, but that has to go through the compliance part, which is 21 CFR or any of the other FDA-related compliances. So I will not say only in our case, but most of the pharma companies, they went through this journey and they went through successfully. But at the same time, there has been a very visible, I will say that the dent which has been observed by the entire pharma fraternity, that is related to the cyber resilience and cyber risk. And it's good that, okay, all of, I mean, most of the pharma companies and the other companies as well, we are going in the direction what BFSI industry used to go in the 10 years back, whether educating the internal employees or upgrading your existing infrastructure to the modern level and also adding the security layers and all these things.
How much, to what extent have you succeeded in convincing your colleagues to move to the cloud and use these newer services?
So I will, Sujit, I will put in this way that it's not a matter of conviction. Before we move to the cloud, you have to take some of the prerequisites, and those prerequisites that, okay, the complete study and analysis of your existing landscape, in that which data is sensitive, which data is related to core, which application is compatible to move, where you have done the investment in terms of your tech refresh recently. So that kind of high level analysis is done. But pharma is still, I will say that it is still, most of the things will be still on premise. However, we have moved some of our work processes on cloud, but that is more on the kind of SaaS model. Now the thought process is going that, okay, what we can move on the PaaS side, but still it is in a primitive stage. So like I will say that you will have your ERP, you will have your CRM, you will have your QMS, LIMS, ELN, all those pharma related things, regulatory related things, which are applications addressing a certain business processes over a period that got integrated also with the minimal interactions wherever the data is needed to validate that. But there are still processes in terms of, let's say, warehousing or logistics, in terms of your talent recruitment and retentions, in terms of your serializations, is sourcing. These things we have moved to the SaaS, and we're running that on the SaaS, yes.
Okay. Just to come back to you, Ram, you've done a lot of transformations. I mean, some specific examples which really made a big difference to those companies. Can you talk about some examples?
Yeah, so if we look at that transformation space, there are some very popular examples that are out there. The more recent one that a lot of people have watched and studied is, if you take the example of how state of New York has kind of conducted themselves during this entire pandemic. That's the first place where there was a lot of patients that got affected, and they were pretty much in an emergency mode. So how did they manage that situation? It's a very highly populous state, right? So how do they manage all these cases that are coming all over the place, and they need to find the hospital beds where they're available, where is the next outbreak going to happen, and whatnot? So generally, when people say, well, government, they may move a little slow because of their inherent nature of how things happen. But if you look at this state, very forward-looking state, they've adopted the modern data analytics technologies, and they were able to capture which area is going to probably have a higher impact of patients in the next few days. And they were able to mobilize their medical resources into that area and kind of provide the necessary relief services that they needed to do. Now, after learning, of course, it's new at the time, so I'm sure there were some things that they've come up to learn on those things, and they've adopted that and continued their partnership even after the emergency has passed. So forever, it has changed on how they were conducting business as a government. If you go into the private sector, if you look at how IKEA conducts its business today, traditional do-it-yourself kind of organization, everybody knows the company, you get your MDF board-based products and you just assemble it yourself very quickly. But then there are people that don't want to do this task themselves for most part. And people like me that are lazy, that want to go with the screwdriver and get things done. What do, right? So they used to either have to hire a handyman to do it or whatever. And it was how do you say it is, that's the impediment for me to go buy an IKEA product. I would rather buy a finished product from somewhere else. So the trend was very obvious, because as the fully assembled furniture was also coming down to the pricing levels of IKEA, they have to find a differentiator. Because otherwise there was not a viable model for them either, because they're brick and mortar massive warehouses. So they went and bought this company called TaskRabbit, and now you don't have to really worry about assembling yourself. And they've gone on the digital journey, and you can buy stuff online, get shipped to your home. TaskRabbit shows up and gives you the assembly at home, so you don't have to worry about that aspect either. And one of the favorite examples that I always look at is Starbucks. I'm an avid coffee drinker. You probably saw me drinking coffee even now. But so being a Starbucks fan myself, look at how they've changed their journey. You go into the shop, and this is a very favorite thing of mine, go in the morning into a Starbucks shop. They know exactly what kind of coffee you want to drink. That is a relationship you establish between yourself and the barista, but it is not sustainable when you have massive amount of people coming and going. So they have come up with where this customer profiling helps them understand whether you're going to drink a coffee in the morning or a latte in the evening or whichever the case may be. And interestingly, the concept of sending a coupon to your phone around 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you are dying for the little chai latte induces you to go to the shop. So they've been able to increase their revenue by a vast amount just by doing some very simple things in using the data analytics principles. If you go into the other space where you're talking about the technology itself and the IT and how they manage the environment, I can give an example of a large Fortune 100 company. They were spending good $700–800 million in just infrastructure operational costs, thousands of employees and whatnot. It gets to a point where just the provisioning part of it takes a long time. So if you go back to why cloud even came out, is because of people like us in the software industry that are not interested in waiting for a server to be built that takes a X amount of time. In this particular example, it was taking close to 45 days to build a server and deploy it and give it to production access. People can't wait that long these days. I mean, people don't wait that long for buying a car or something like that. So basically, that was an unviable solution. So they made their journey onto the cloud platform. They cut back their cost by about $90 million by the time they finished their second-year anniversary of moving to the cloud, and they're well on track to cut another $60 million. So it's cost savings, better service availability, and instant gratification for their users where they can go build their applications or deploy pretty rapidly. Just to give you a few generic examples, and I've got some very specific examples of our customers as well, but let me yield back to the panel, please.
Okay. Well, I just wanted one question. I mean, services like AI and analytics, how important is the cloud to deliver these kind of services?
So when you get into the space of AI, I'm happen to call myself a hobbyist in terms of AI ML and really passionate about that space. But if you look at the journey, I mean, AI ML has been in some form or fashion been around for a long period of time. Most people think it's a very new thing, but it's really not. Some of the algorithms may be new, but or how we use them may be new, but not the concept itself. Now, why it is so popular these days and why people are all, it's a cool thing to say in the technology world, of course, and why you get a lot of industry buzz as well is because we have massive amounts of data. So for people don't realize how their data is going, where it's going, how it is being tracked. You go post something on Facebook, you think that only your friends can see and this and that, and then pretty soon you don't know what your friend is doing with that picture or whatever you posted there. And then there's all these tons of streaming data that comes around. And when basically organizations that are selling, and pretty much every organization sells something or the other, they have a ton of data to deal with. It is not possible with traditional data analytics platforms to be able to do that and then do the analysis, having an army of business analysts or whatever you may have, and bring the intelligence out. You can still do that, but it takes so long. By the time you come up with the results, the market has moved someplace else. Now, welcome to the club of AIML, where you have all this done very quickly. Now, why do you need to do this on the modern platforms like cloud? Because you need rapid scaling. You don't know how much data is going to come today. You don't know how much data is going to come tomorrow. You have a guess based on whatever previous trends, but you can't really rapidly scale horizontally as the machine learning models need to do the compute. So this is the main reason why you need that. Now, on top of it, you can build these algorithms, train them, coach them, and do all the things that you need to do, and then deploy the models. Or you go and take a model that is already built by somebody else using the same platform, and the service provider is giving it to you for free. So your time to market in terms of your model deployment and getting the benefits out of it is drastically reduced. So there's a wide variety of reasons why you want to go and use the AML platforms that are available in the public cloud rather than do it yourself.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Shilpa, I have a question here for, this is from the audience. It's interesting for some, it's for Sammeer. So let me just put that before we go. This is from Vihang. Sammeer, this is for you. How do you view competition from born in cloud stockbrokers versus traditional brick and mortar brokers? And how is cloud a strategic enabler for you?
Yeah, see, there is a competition. Okay, no doubt about it. Okay, and it is going to be there. But one thing I would say that we have got a humongous market available in India. We have got just 3 to 4% population only trading in the stock market. So if you really see, the penetration is going to happen and it will expand in a big way, and there will be enough for everyone. So there is a competition. Okay, we are also going in the cloud, and that we know that if you have to really expand, if you have to really grow in terms of the transaction, if you have to really build the AI ML based kind of a platform, cloud is the journey which we have to take, and that's how we are going on to it. And that's the plan we also have, and we have already started the journey. So it's a big market, and it's a growing market, and that's the reason we are saying that okay, we both both the new age brokerage as well as the brick and mortar brokerage will survive. So that's my view.
Are you doing any AI and all that now?
Yeah, we are doing a little bit of AI ML. We are doing. I will give you just an example. I think when Ram was talking, I just thought about the one project which we are like we have got 20 years of data for the voice recorded system. We have got 1,500 dealers working or RMs working from last 22 years time. Now we are trying to have an automated system which will answer the customers based on the emotional reading also, not only the communication of the what they want to buy or sell or get quote, something they want to know. So that we couldn't do on-prem basis. When we are talking about 22 years of data and to analyze in different languages, we have got around 10 to 12 languages on which customers are calling and transacting. So how to analyze this data and build an automated process where the customer will call and a robot will answer, and that communication has to be as good as the human communication. So that process is like one project which we are taking up in the cloud, because that kind of a data analysis and the time and the speed, it can also only happen in the cloud. Same way, like we are talking about some kind of a very personalized kind of a stuff. So stock market or any business you take it, it is very personalized. Like the example given for the coffee. Same way, like if I know that, okay, this customer is transacting at 10% profit or 20% profits or 5% stop loss, I should be giving a nudge. I should be giving it some kind of information to this customer. He may not be active in the market on that day, but is there any way to communicate, okay, this price has reached to this level? So it is an auto alert. You don't have to wait for customer to set the alert. It's a very personalized service. Okay, if he has got portfolio which has got some pharma company, how do I give more information about the pharma company? If he has got some stocks in his watch list and we know that his interest lies there, what kind of other information we can? So this requires a lot of data crunching, and it's a data capitalism. That is what we are looking at, and how do you monetize on that? That's the game changer, and that's what we have to look for.
Okay, data capitalism. Okay, Shilpa.
Yeah, we have some questions coming in. This is from Arpita Sood, and this is for Gyan Pandey. Due to the pandemic, all eyes are on the pharma industry now. How is digital transformation enabling the industry to fast-track research and clinical trials?
That's an interesting question, because in the pharma, I mean, basically so much have been talked about the Covaxin itself, the COVID-related vaccine and all, and how it has been all fast-tracked. Generally, a vaccine takes at least 10 years to basically right from the ideation, then the R&D, then you're doing this clinical trials and all of different phases, and then coming to the all regulatory bodies clearance and all, and manufacturing. Average it takes 10 years. And in this pandemic, we have seen that many organizations, including we have 2 or 3, rather 4 companies in India who already have started their production on the COVID-related vaccines. So on other sides also, not only for only these vaccines, on other sides also, there is already a thought process which has basically gathered a lot of momentum in the industry, that how we can automate and how we can make this fast track the clinical trials. There were a number of regions also, regions where that, okay, what we call subjects for the trials and all, and taking those data and doing those kind of analysis and algorithms, build advanced analytics on that. it used to take a lot of time, and not all the companies will have that capability. The great enabler for that is, as Ram said in his in this case, that okay, the platform which is offered on the cloud that makes you to enable it quickly, and the learnings and the algorithms which have been built for the same industry for the other customers, that can be utilized. And further, it can be retrofitted for some of the scenarios and the use cases related to that. In case of clinical trials, there has been a lot of adoptions by the companies who are in the clinical trial business. We have one of our group companies in clinical trial, but industry as a whole, we have seen that in terms of the digital adoptions of the clinical trials to make these studies faster and bring those outcomes faster by expanding the compute or expanding this in a short while, busting out with on the elastic cloud, and also bringing out the analytics and the advanced analytics algorithms which has been used earlier, and further advancing it with the data which they are getting from the current things. Not only that, reaching out to those subjects in terms of monitoring their health conditions and the responses what they have been given, that also has now started a lot more adoptions. We have been talking about the digital pills, and there have been digital pills which has been approved the last year or a couple of years back by the FDA. Those things will also come very soon, and that too will come in the India also.
What is that? Digital pills? What is that?
So if you basically take a digital pill, it will real time, it will give the data in terms of that how your body is behaving, and based on that you can do the simulations, and you can basically compress your time for the entire your clinical trials and or making this whole study on that particular molecule or the drug in a shorter time.
Okay. Okay.
We have another question. This is from Jui Debnath. Which is the most fundamental skill for a novice in digital transformation talent landscape? Maybe Ram, do you want to take this?
Sure, Shilpa. So that's a very interesting question, at the same time very difficult to answer. So when we talk about digital transformation, everything starts with code. So if you think about the days when you have system administrators, database administrators, network administrators, so on and so forth, it is traditionally believed that they could get away with some level of scripting and not know so much of coding at all. So with the advent of advances made in Python and Golang and so on and so forth, in modern languages, these have become the mainstay for digital transformation. So whether you're getting into AI/ML or DevOps or data analytics, the fundamental two skills that I always tell whenever I go talk in colleges as well is to learn Python, to learn Golang. Those are the popular ones now. Now, next year you talk to me, I might say something different, but that's how this field is. But those are essential skills that you must have. Now, by having this programming language in itself is not adequate for you. You have to focus on understanding business. And this is where I always find, even when I was studying in my career, a big problem or a drawback, because engineers generally focus on engineering. They want to be very, very good at, say, Python. You want to be a 10 on 10 on Python or 10 on 10 on Golang or whatever. But you don't focus on what benefit you can bring to the business using that skill. So it is very essential for young folks that are getting started in this area to understand and pick an industry. And I would say pick as many industries as possible. And as I've spent my time in banking, pharma, all kinds of different areas, telecom, so on, you learn different things. And you also find some commonality in these industries. When you have that business knowledge, coupled with this, then your work, whether it is AI/ML, DevOps, or data analytics, the modern ones, the popular ones that you're going to face in the corporate world, you're going to be very comfortable, and the business will start seeing benefits from your employment very quickly. So that's what I would advise. I know it's a long answer, but it is complicated.
Okay. Sammeer, same thing. I mean, skills-wise, what do you do? I mean, do you have a lot of internal skills yourself, or do you outsource a lot of the work?
Okay. So in terms of the skill, it's a very good question. It's a very challenging thing because the technology is changing, the landscape is changing, the business is changing. So how do we cope up with these changes? So there could be three ways we can work on it. We can have the first approach where we can keep on upgrading, upskilling our own resources also. that has to be self-motivated also. We are recognizing people who are doing this kind of work of their own in the organization. Second is go for hiring the new resources who are very well versed with the new technology, who are working in this kind of a technology, who knows about, like, I'll give you an example. Let's assume we are working in the broking industry. We work on the investment side, but why not take it someone from the Swiggy or some kind of a Ola kind of a resources, because that is the need of the hour, and the things and the mindset has to change. So that is the second approach. Third approach, I would say here, go to the some kind of partners who can help you build on it, or the cloud is another option where a lot of fintechs, a lot of startups are working, and maybe you can plug in those resources or plug in those partners into your system, ecosystem, and take the best of it and take the advantage of entire ecosystem. So that's the three-way approach which I personally feel we should be, I am adopting as in my organization. That's my approach.
Okay, okay. Gyan, same question to you. I mean, internally, I mean, what do you do most of it internally?
Well, we do most of the things internally, but as far as the skill set is concerned, that will be that's a real challenge. I will tell you why, because as Sammeer has summarized very well, three approaches to address that problem. But before that, I will put one very clear thing that why, how the pharma industry perceives that what are the things to be considered for the digital transformation. And basically, it starts with the paramount things as a regulatory compliance. Below that could be quality, it could be your, let's say, your operational excellence, whether it is efficiency or yield or effect, or your top line or bottom line in terms of if it is a customer facing and all. And more or less, this is the approach for most of the industry as well, not only to the pharma. But pharma, one thing is that one thing goes at that above everything is the compliance, because we deal with the human lives. So the patient safety is the paramount. So in our case also, pharma is traditionally has been the industry where you will have a silo kind of solutions for different equipments, different processes got kind of automated, different solutions have been implemented. And there will be always, they will be running on technologies N-3, N-4 version in terms of IT. But when IT people, when you have taken a profession of, let's say, information technology, you have to be always on your toes in terms of upskilling and reskilling and learning to the new technology. Though this has been the kind of a mindset for IT professionals, but the transformation has happening in the last 4 or 5 years has been so fast. It has been kind of sea change. So the people who has grown up, let's say, in certain technology for, let's say, the Oracle or the Microsoft, it's very difficult for them to make them to up to the same level where it is talking about advanced analytics or artificial intelligence or IoT kind of things. They can understand the concept, but they will not become the expert on that. So on that front, what I understand is that we need to take a combination of all the three, what Sammeer has said, depending on where the case is more relevant. Maybe for core systems and applications, which still wants to run on the traditional technology, you can still have those resources inside internally and upgrade and basically upskill them on the newer technology on the infra side. Maybe the data warehousing, networking, security for them. But for the new technology where the real benefit of digital transformation will come in terms of bringing the analytics, bringing a lot of data insights, we need to take the people right from the different industries, but much more competent in that particular technology and blend them with this business process experts so as we can get the right context of getting the insight of that. And of course, we cannot ignore partnering with the capable and competent partners, because in that case, your whole learning and bringing the solution will be much faster, and the risk will be also can be averted, because we do not have the time to experiment. And nowadays, the mantras for every business to be successful is the speed and its agility, irrespective of whether it is a $50 billion company or 5 crore company. But if you're running at a speed which is a snail and you're not absorbing the new technologies, you are defining your recipe for failure in the future.
Okay. Rama, I want to ask you this. When you recommend a digital transformation, are there some steps that you advise companies to follow? How should they start?
Absolutely. First, you have to have very clearly defined goals where you're trying to go with your digital transformation. Is your objective, as I said before, about SLA or your application availability or scaling, or is it about cost savings? That has to be very clearly defined. Then the second part of it is you got to release your top performers, your people that have the most knowledge of your business and have been actively engaged in the operations, and make those guys take this journey. Okay, you can't have some external party come in and try to do this and whatnot without these people already engaged in that project. So you can bring a company like us and engage in the journey, but what happens then is you need to pair them up with the business experts that you have so that the journey is smooth and it is done the way you want it. Third, you have to have, as the panelists were saying, a top talent that are very knowledgeable about these technologies, whether in-house or from a source like us, where they come in and advise you on how your journey should be. Make a roadmap and say, these are my goals. Don't try to achieve digital transformation in a quarter. It is a journey. And you also have to bring the company's organization's culture along with it. There are a lot of methodologies that come into play once you take this journey, whether it is the microservices architecture you will do through app modernization, or the DevOps journey, the DevSecOps that you need to start on. You have to worry about data compliance standards once you go into the public cloud. So there's a lot of other what you say, challenges or things that come your way that you need to handle properly. So all this has to be planned well, and you have to measure your success at each of your milestones. So it should be very well-driven program management in place in order to achieve the ultimate goal. Now, this is a journey. When we say digital transformation, it's not an end. I mean, you're in that cycle where you're continuously improving and there are newer and newer things. Let's say you started this DTS journey with a 2-year plan. By the time you reach your end point, you're starting over again, because in 2 years' time, whatever technologies we're talking about here are going to mature and do something different. So you're continuously evolving there. Now, this is technology in general, of course, but the speed at which things are evolving is just so fast these days that what you're doing, you have to protect against the future changes as well. So the design, the architecture itself has to be very clear and robustly laid out. And you have to bring your team along in these skill sets. So in this journey, you have to make sure that you're upskilling your teams along the way. Otherwise, you get there and then you have nobody to support because the person that's helping you is probably gone now. So these are some fundamental things that you got to look for and measure. But every step of the way, you got to measure. It's like any other good program management.
Okay. Among traditional industries, who are moving the fastest? What is your sense?
I would say that banking industry is moving pretty quickly. Pharmaceutical industry is also moving because I guess to some degree by the mere fact of they need a lot of compute and there's a lot of sharing that happens in the pharmaceutical industry. Those are moving along pretty well. Telecom has always been the forefront of doing a lot of these kind of methodologies. Manufacturing sector will have an interesting combination when they take on this journey, because manufacturing by themselves, they have a large footprint to manage, and the last thing they want to do is manage another data center. But having said that, they do have factory shops and floors. So whenever you go to a public cloud, you have a internet dependency or the connectivity dependency. So they have that interesting challenge, which everybody has, but a greater degree. But they're also undertaking this journey because everyone is in the business of infrastructure management. So I would say pretty well received at this point by all industries, but mostly these would be the forerunners in my view.
Okay. Should I have a question here for Sammeer? It's from Prasanna Vyasarajan. He's actually talking about banks. I know HDFC Securities, it's not a bank, but still, Sammeer, see if you can take this. In your view, how much of a digitization scope is still open for banks in India? How does India stand relative to other countries in terms of digitalization? We've done phenomenally with UPI and all that. Ram, even you can take this. In banks, you said they're already in the forefront. Sammeer, you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. So in the banking, it's still like India is evolving. It has reached to a certain level. Though if you see the really the digital transaction which are happening digitally, it's phenomenal number. I know the number at our end, what we are doing and the speed at which it is growing, it is phenomenal. But that is only from the transaction side. But there are a lot has to be done on the customer interaction side, customer journey to start with, right from the digital account openings journey till the time of the every transaction which we take. It's not only the UPI transaction. Why not on the FD? Why not on the investment side also? Why not on the customer care side in terms of how to handle the customer, how to manage their finances, how to manage their grievances. All those things are very much required, and there a lot has to be done. There are a lot of regulatory and compliance changes are coming, which is also pushing all this digital transformation. So a lot has to be done on the banking front also. I would say that there is enough we have done, but there is journey is just started, I would say.
And on the mortgage side, I took a loan 2 years ago. Oh, my goodness, it was crazy. I thought by now the bank things would have changed, but a lot of documentation, all that. Yeah. Ram, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would say more from the banking perspective, from the banker's perspective, I should say. There's a lot of interesting things happening. Now, with the advent of people going cashless, it's really put a lot of data in the pockets of banks. So previously, banks were pretty content, as my colleagues will agree here. You know, you put some deposits, you do some loans, and you're in a happy place collecting that little difference. But it has really become more complicated than that if you're looking at the traditional banking. I mean, there's a lot of banking products out there, but just generalizing it for common purpose. If you just take that common example, where all of us as individuals go to a bank, put our salaries or whatever in the bank and use it as we feel fit. Well, before, you might be taking that money out, and let's say you draw 20,000 rupees, nobody knows what you did with it, because it's all cash. You can spend anywhere and there's no tracking. Well, these days, an entire generation of people are just using Google Pay or some other way of paying their coffee also. So a bank now knows whether I've had coffee in the morning or whether I had breakfast at Hyatt or something, and they have tracks of all this. So this incredible data that banks did not have before is now freely available to them. They're not even asking for it. And to be honest with you, I wonder how much of legislation is even in there for them to even market these things, right? Because it's data that you have to have. So if you take that data as a banker and you try to capitalize on it, it is a tremendous amount of data that is sitting in their hands. So that is why, if you probably notice, you probably get SMSs or emails from your banker saying, hey, there is a coupon for this place or that place based on your usage trends. That additional revenue stream is coming to banks just by this simple adoption of a digital technology. So when we say digital transformation, it's not always moving to the cloud or this or that, but this is a good example of how a change in how people are doing transaction is helping banks earn more money, to be honest with you. And maybe they'll discount all of our home loans.
I know. Shilpa?
We have this question for Gyan. How have you improved pharma sales processes through digital transformation?
From Ravish, I think, no? Yeah.
From Ravish, yeah.
So we do not have any B2C here. However, I will take this question because as a pharma sector, how things are moving. So you know that during this pandemic, the entire pharma and healthcare setups, there has been kind of, in the start with a lot of chaos. People wanted healthcare and they were not able to reach out to the doctors or to reach out to the chemists, though chemists have been the essential services and all, but many doctors opted not to come out. But this, there have been solutions in the market, kind of, there has been the video platforms, whether a kind of Practo or other things, but the adoption and utilization was not that great. And what happened during this pandemic is that the companies, with having their such a huge MR forces and they're sitting idle, they're not able to reach out to, they're not going out in the field. They very quickly deployed and built their own solutions of collaborations, interactions on the digital platform, whether it is the interaction with the doctors and all, or whether it is with their other customers. On the other side, the end consumer, which is the kind of patients and all, they also have the flexibility that without coming out from the home, the consultations and all can be done on the digital platform. And now you can see that most of the things, whether it is your any kind of diagnostic test or whether you are taking the video consultations, all you will be doing on the video platform, digital platforms. And all of a sudden, the people who were not, it is like this, that demonetizations politically, whatever the criticism or favor has been done, keeping that aside, but all of a sudden the entire India was digitally enabled. People being illiterate, but they have been digitally enabled. That was something which is in one way very scary, but in a very revolutionary step, I will say. Same thing happens here, that the patients who never probably used even the video calling, but there have been time that they have to interact with the doctors, share their issues, and they have got the recommendations and prescriptions which they ordered from some of the nearby chemist shop or from the likes of 1mg or NetMed and whatever to get that delivered. So entire on that life sciences kind of, and on the other side, if you take from the drug discovery or the clinical trials or the manufacturing, there has been parallel adoptions and changes happening on the digitally to completely end-to-end to stitch the story, right from the ideations to the R&D, to the clinical trial, to the manufacturing, logistic, reaching to the chemist shop, and here interaction with doctors. This whole time has been compressed. And that is why you will see that pharma and pharma manufacturing companies, as well as the right to the end user chemist or the hospitals, there has been a lot of focus has been going on the supply chain. And supply chain has been one of the area in the case of pharma manufacturing, where there is still a lot of scope to do the, a lot of improvement by adopting the digital technologies. And now the industry has basically the thin line that the life science service providers and the manufacturing companies like pharma and clinical trial companies, all these have to collaborate seamlessly on the real-time basis or more or less near real-time basis to make their manufacturing process more efficient, make their R&D and the whole drug discovery compressed, deliver those medicines within a less time, so as you'll have a longer shelf life, and reach to the right patients in the least time. So, and by that you reduce the cost also. And in India, we have mostly the generic pharma industries, and our whole strength has been that we have been able to produce most of the drugs at a much lower cost what the other countries would have been. And that helps a lot, basically. So the entire, if I take from the digital adoptions from the, let's say on the healthcare side, there has been, it has completely changed 180 degrees shift. The people who have not been using maybe the WhatsApp video call, but they have adopted this digital consultancy and all.
Okay, very interesting. This is one more question from Sankhya Chattopadhyay. What are the common hindrances, challenges that you have faced while going for a digital transformation journey, especially moving to cloud compute? Some examples would be great. Ram, you want to first take that? What are typically your clients, the biggest challenges that they face when they want to first move to cloud computing?
Generally speaking, it's the culture that comes in the way. The possessiveness. I have my servers, I can go touch and feel. Now I don't know where the data is going to sit. So generally, that is the first thing that becomes a hindrance. But I think at this stage, a lot of organizations have passed that. In fact, most of the IT organizations probably welcome an adoption of cloud for many reasons, because technology guys, when generally we like to brag about what we do. So going to the cloud and doing some cool things there, adopting serverless technologies and things of that nature is very interesting for us. So that does happen. However, the application changes themselves that may need to happen when they do this, undertake this journey. If it is a pure lift and shift, that's one thing. But then along the journey, if there are some changes that need to be done, there may be some technical challenges, licensing challenges that may also pop in based on how you're running your applications and whatnot. So there's a wide variety of them. But generally speaking, the first step where that transformation, that change needs to happen, gets caught in the culture aspects of it. Now, I've been on projects where people do the analysis and show the benefit. At the end of the day, it's the bottom line for the business, right? So what is beneficial, to be on-prem or to be on the cloud? And you can do this analysis in any number of ways and show whichever one you want to show as the beneficial route. So we're pretty good at that as technologists. So that is there, and hence the challenge of overcoming that. But to me, taking this journey is of a more strategic in nature. If you're a business that is saying, okay, I'm surviving today, I'm happy, I will survive like this for the next 10 years, you know what is in store for you. But if you're a business that is saying, I'm going to set myself up for the future, at least 5 years, if I'm not thinking 10 years into the future, then you will take the digital transformation journey. And it is a forward-looking thing and pretty much a needed thing to do to be viable a few years down the line. I mean, you can take examples of Blockbuster and so on what happens if they say, okay, I'm in good shape now. So that's where I would leave that.
Okay, okay. Sammeer, how much is security a concern for you? Gyan had mentioned security as a concern for them. So, Sammeer, security must be a big concern for you as well, no?
Yeah. So before I come to the security, I will just go back to the question which has been asked just now about the what kind of challenge. I think no change is without any challenge, and this digital transformation is also a challenge. And when we are getting into this journey, I think what we should be doing, we should plan, we should understand why we are doing these changes and why we're getting into this journey, why we're going for the cloud journey. So everything, if it is planned in a better way, I think then the challenges will reduce, because you need to be clear why we are doing it. So whether we want to get the agility, nimbleness, innovation, speed, all those things, if you define cost, all these things will come to some kind of a conclusion that, okay, this is the way you have to approach. Okay, that is how I just wanted to take up that question. In terms of the cybersecurity, definitely it is the major concern, especially we are the custodian for and we are managing the finance part of these customers. We are managing their very sensitive data. So that is definitely a major concern, and we are taking all steps, whether it is, so SEBI has come out with some 56 pointers framework for the cybersecurity, and that has been mandated, and that has to be implemented in true strength, and that is what has been done. So those 56 are like some kind of a guideline for every broking industry and intermediaries that we have to follow, and that is a pretty tight and secured one. Still, it's more of the culture and more of the people dependency also there. In terms of, I'll take the very simple example, how the firewall rules are built, how that is managed by individual, whether they are keeping any rules any to any or something like that, very open, whether there are so many admin logins and they are not in use and they have not deleted, they have not changed the password regularly. These are the very basic mistakes people generally commit, and that exposes your entire data center, entire database kind of a scenario. So it is a very big concern area, and the kind of reportings are happening, the kind of hacking we have seen. We are seeing the data every month. You will see 2-3 cases coming up. So it's a very sensitive thing, and very critical for the finance sector. Definitely, it will be for other sector also. But since we are managing the finance for all our customer and we are the custodian for that, it's a very critical item for us.
Okay, okay. Shilpa?
I wanted to ask you, with companies adopting a multi-cloud strategy, if you can talk about some of the core skill sets that are demand, like cloud architects, if you can call out some of them.
Yeah. So the question to me?
Any of you can take.
Okay, so yeah, in terms of there is a different skill set required, right from the technical architect for the multi-cloud infrastructure or a single cloud infrastructure. There is a special skill set required for the network and cyber security framework also. It's not going to be the same cyber security framework or the network which is being done on the traditional basis, which is only you are having the branches. You have got few internet connections for the transaction which you are doing for the digital. This is going to be completely changed, because you will be accessing the cloud from different point of connection from your primary data center. You will be connecting from your disaster recovery side. There will be always some kind of a hybrid infrastructure. It cannot be a complete cloud deployment, at least in our industry we have seen. So it requires the focus point will be the architect for in terms of the application side, because we are developing all the application either in-house or we have got partners. So one is that how that architecture is built and how it will interact with the various systems internally. That is one component. Second is in terms of the network, because even one small problem or a small wrong configuration can create a havoc in the entire system. So that is another area where we have to have the complete clarity in terms of what kind of a network architect we are selecting. Third is that, and there we are looking for a lot of like telecom service provider, which have got more experience in this and longer experience. They have got long experience in this field. So that is what we are targeting, that we should get some resources there. Third component is the most important, that is the cybersecurity piece, because that is the piece which is a completely new. It has to be a different from your traditional on-prem kind of a scenario. So these are the three critical areas which we should be looking for when we are looking for a specialist.
Okay, Shilpa, we are at 7 o'clock now, I think. Yeah, just ran out of, so any final remarks, Gyan? I mean, what your final message to your industry based on your experiences, digital transformation? I mean, what would your advice be?
Well, I will say that, okay, digital transformation journey, it is not a kind of an option. Everybody, we have to adopt it. The degree of adoption may vary from company to company, or maybe business priority to priority, or depending on the current scenarios. But this journey, everybody has to start, and they have to catch up the momentum also very pretty fast, so as they will not be lagging behind. And along with the digital transformations, we have to be, the digital transformation or any changes if you are bringing the technology is always a kind of double-edged sword. So along with that, we have to bring this lot of cultural changes. Within the culture, the people should be used to basically use data, analyze data, take decisions out of that. So data culture needs to be also be driven within the organization, so as whatever the data you are putting to take the decisions, they are the quality data. Second is that in terms of behavior, a lot of cyber hygiene and cyber behaviors needs to be there, because you're dealing with the data, and data is your ultimate resource or the capital, which if not protected, you will be losing a lot of business opportunities and service. And third part is that we as an IT fraternity, we are no more in technology, we are technology added with the business and business in the different processes and functions. So IT is not only the pivotal for enabling on technology, but it's a kind of a blood running in the entire enterprise wide, internally, externally, and maybe virtually also.
Sammeer, some last words. I think it is well covered by Gyan also.
Okay.
And, yeah. So we, as I told you, there are three components where we have to definitely look, and that there is a culture shift and the mindset shift. That is very much required, because not everybody who's coming, especially the new generation which is coming, is already cloud ready. But the generation like we are there, or the people who are working for last 10 years, 15 years or 20 years, it's a mindset change, it's a culture change, and that has to be, new thing changes has to be adopted.
Ram?
I'd say to young technologists that are coming up in their career, as well as very well established organizations, the same general message that I give is be restless. If you think something is working great and everything is flawless and smooth, please find a flaw. There will be something, and there is always a better way to do things. So my suggestion always is be restless, be agile, and find better ways of doing things, because whatever you think is working very well is not. And if it is today, if you think, it won't be next month or next year. So there is always room for innovation. Focus your mind on innovation and doing things differently, question everything, and take on that journey. It is very exciting times we live in. Thank you.
Wonderful. So for organizations, the message is, yeah, digital transformation is inevitable, but it requires a major culture shift, a mindset shift. You have to become data organizations. For the youngsters, the message, be restless, be agile, innovative. Yeah. So thanks so much, Shilpa. Yeah.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Sammeer. Thank you, Gyan, for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thanks from the Techies team as well.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very interesting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks to
Bye.